I think one of the biggest contributing factors to drifting and distance is unresolved conflict.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really huge one in marriage,
Yeah,
because when hurt isn't healed, hurt gets buried.
for sure.
And when hurt is buried, it comes out in the form of distancing yourself from your spouse.
You're listening to the Favorite Marriage Podcast with Monty and Jeannine Mora, a place where you and your spouse can experience God's favor on your forever. Enjoy this week's episode of The Favorite Marriage.
Hey friends, welcome back to another episode of the Favorite Marriage Podcast. We are your host, Monty and Jeannine Mora, and this is the podcast where we are passionate about putting tools into your marriage toolbox. And so thanks for joining us for this episode. Jeannine, this is our 80th episode of the Favorite Marriage Podcast. So we've been doing this for 3 years now, and we're getting closer and closer to the 100 mark. And so thank you for sticking around with us. For those of you who like and follow, subscribe, and listen, boy, it sure does mean a lot. So thanks for hanging out with us. And today we're going to be talking about another question. This has been a mini series where we've been asking the real questions to couples. Mini series number 1, we asked, why is my spouse so angry? We asked, why is my spouse so selfish? And today we're going to be asking the question, why is my spouse so distant? Okay, not angry, not expressive, just distant. And we hear this a lot with many couples. They are sharing with us, even as we do coaching and just talking with many couples, they share with us that they feel like there's a distance, that there's a gap as big as the Grand Canyon between both them and their spouse.
Yeah, and sometimes this distance can feel more hurtful and even feel more dangerous in a marriage, because at least when you're arguing or you're having intense fellowship, we say, there's communication. You are looking at each other. I mean, it's not in a good way, but at least there's some type of connection. When there's distance, there's that isolation, and that, like you said, that Grand Canyon, that gap has the potential to grow larger and larger as time goes on. And really it's a feeling that is a very, I would say, feels unsafe in a marriage. If you feel like something is not right, something something needs to be fixed and needs to be fixed quickly. And rightly so, because God created us to be one flesh. We get married not to be distant. We are to get married to have relationship and fellowship, and when we don't have that, there's that gap that we feel emotionally. I mean, it's physical, right? There's that physical gap, but you also feel it emotionally and mentally and socially.
Yeah. You think of the word distance, it starts with the letter D, and then you connect the word drifting. So couples, when they feel that there's this distance in their relationship, it's a slow drift. It doesn't just happen overnight. You just wake up and realize, hey, we're distant. No, it is a very, very slow drift that happens that brings about that gap between the husband and the wife. And so remember, if you're not moving closer together, then you're drifting farther apart. That's what creates the distance.
For sure. I can't help to think, Monty, about, I don't know if it was one of our podcasts we may have done, or it could have been one of the writings that we're doing where we were talking about like the port, like our marriage being a port, and like we're ships docked there. So when you think about two ships being docked in a home, like your home being the port, and one is not anchored. They're not anchored into the family, the marriage, into God. And their anchor is raised up because, for whatever reason, maybe they just, I mean, there could just be so many reasons why their anchor is not let down and they're not fully committed into the relationship or to the family. When that anchor is raised and it's pulled in, that gives that ship, that spouse, the potential to drift from the port. And before you know it, they're way out to sea and so far away that they can't even see what's happening on the port anymore. So I like how you mentioned that, the drift. It's a slow drift.
It's subtle. It is very, very subtle. And couples have to always be monitoring their marriage, assessing their marriage to see, hey, how are we doing here? You know, is there a distance? Is there a gap? Are we drifting apart? You know, many couples will say, I'm married, but I feel alone. I'm married,
That's
but
so true.
I feel isolated. I'm married, but I feel like we are just living in the same house, two people, like roommates, you know, and that's a real situation, and that's why it's a real question. Why is my spouse so different?
And the
or so
sad
distant?
thing is that we can think of couples that have just grown used to that, and they're okay with drifting apart in their own parts of the sea, you know, and they're just like, hey, you know, they'll come back together when they need to, you know, during hard times, or family events will bring them close, and then it's like, okay, we'll see you in the next go round, you know, and they become comfortable drifting. But that's not where God wants us to be. He wants us to be on the love boat together, you know.
The love boat, yes.
But yeah, it's a dangerous place to be when you've become comfortable with the drift.
Yeah. I think a good scripture that kind of puts things into perspective of what we're going to be talking about today is in Genesis chapter 2, verse 24. We always like to insert a scripture because this is a faith-based podcast. Genesis 2:24 says, "This is why a man leaves his father and mother and is united to his wife, and they become one flesh." Now think about that word, one flesh, oneness. Oneness is the foundation of every marriage. And distance is the opposite of what God designs in a marriage, right? He designs for that married couple to be one, to have that sense of one fleshness, if I can say that word. And so when we move away from that one flesh spirit, then that's when we begin to move in opposite directions, and there's that distance between us. Now, God's design for marriage was not distance. It was oneness.
Right.
Okay. And that's so very important. So when one feels distant, it's a signal that something is off from God's original design. And so when you think of the first human beings, married couple, Adam and Eve, there was some distance that took place between their relationship, wasn't there?
Yes.
Yeah. When the enemy came in, the serpent, and caused her, Eve, to eat of the fruit. And then
drifted in the garden.
She drifted, and then she gave some to Adam, and then Adam ate. And then from there, boy, they began to drift, and the drift has been happening ever since then. But it's funny how the enemy came in and attacked the very first married couple in the garden to create this distance within their relationship.
Right. So how does this distance look? Like what causes this distance? Because no one stands at the altar and says I do with the intention to drift away from their spouse. I mean, in their vows and in their dating and their courtship and all of those moments leading up to those vows, that commitment, the covenant that's made, there was never an idea in their mind that they would ever draw away from their spouse, because they couldn't stand to be away from them. You know, like in dating, like we were dating, and, you know, I was in college and you were, you know, in Pueblo, and it was hard to be away from each other, especially because we didn't have the convenience of the convenience of FaceTime and all those good things that where you can see face to face. It would have been so much different. I mean, we had phones that were attached to the wall, and you had to go to a payphone. So there was always this desire to be so close to each other. So when does this happen? How does it happen?
Yeah. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the biggest contributing factors to drifting and distance is unresolved conflict.
Mm-hmm.
That's a really huge one in marriage,
Yeah,
because when hurt isn't healed, hurt gets buried.
for sure.
And when hurt is buried, it comes out in the form of distancing yourself from your spouse.
Yeah.
Why? Because the conflict is not being managed well. It's unresolved. And like we talked about in the last episode, when there's hurt people hurt people.
Right. And you just avoid each other. I mean, that is what happens when there's that conflict. You don't want to see each other. You'd rather go to the store or go somewhere else or do something with the kids. And there's that avoidance and that withdrawal that happens in the marriage.
Yeah.
Another one is poor communication, right? Not being able to communicate, having the difficulty to see eye to eye on things, to be able to come together and have those moments of, there might be disagreements, but being able to sit down and really get through disagreements in a healthy way. So if you're unable to do that, if you're having communication issues that way, then they land up with the number one is, well, just forget it, and then there's the fight. So communication, definitely lack thereof is a definite way to drift away. You're not talking to each other when you get home from work. You would, rather, talk with the kids because they're easier to talk to, just because there's that lack of intimacy in your conversation. So you go to where you can find that connection.
Yeah. When you're not feeling valued, when you feel like your words aren't being valued, you're not being heard.
For sure.
You isolate, you drift, which kind of leads to the third one. The third contributing factor to why we drift and why there is distance in the marriage is because busyness of life. And this is a big reality here.
Yeah.
Couples, we do get busy with kids and family and work and dinner and hobbies and all this stuff. And it's busy. And so many couples fall into this category. And what happens is that when you get home, you're exhausted.
Yeah, you're not mad at each other.
Yeah.
You don't hate each other. You're just too darn tired to talk. So, yeah.
Yeah. Not only tired to talk, tired to make love, tired to make a emotional connection. You're just exhausted, because life has created a lot of demands upon you, and you get home and you're just tired. And that happens week after week, month after month, year after year. Guess what's going to happen to the marriage? You're going to drift. You're going to feel distant.
Yeah. And one, Monty, that's on the rise that we've just seen take over marriages in the last decade or so is technology. It just drives me crazy when I just see couples just engage for hours in their technology, their phone or computer, or it could even be like job related, right? When their spouse is sitting right next to them, we people watch a lot. When we were at the restaurant not too long ago, just a couple nights ago, I couldn't help but notice a couple the young man was just eating away and the lady was just on her phone scrolling, typing, scrolling. And I thought, okay, maybe she has a text to send, checking on the kids or whatever. But no, it was like, I'm like, girl, sit down, you're with your man, eat some cornbread or something. Just connect. And I don't know, you can't judge people all the time, but there was no connection there. And it happens at home. It happens when you're together at an event, it's such a dangerous little thing, technology. It's so powerful. It's so useful. But when it becomes the master in your marriage, it should never be the master in your marriage.
Yeah.
There really needs to be some just checking of your priority when it comes to technology, because it could just rob you so much.
Yeah. Think about this statement. The more we're connected to technology, the less we're connected with each other.
Yeah.
Because the pool of the world, the technology, whether it be an app or, the new thing is doom scrolling, right? You just start scrolling and you go into this deep abyss, and before you know it, it's 20 minutes, it's an hour, and you're like, wow, where'd all that time go? Because you just got caught up in doom scrolling, And the more you connect to that, the less opportunity you have to connect with each other.
Yeah. I think for me, it just comes down to what is so important on that device that is more important than the person sitting next to you, the person that is the mother or the father to your children, who you said, till death do us part to, who you share your life with, who will probably be taking care of you when you're old and gray, if you last till you're old and gray.
Yeah.
Or who's caring for you now or takes care of you, when you're sick or when you have needs. Like, just there's so much investment that goes on in a marriage.
Sure.
When we choose to invest our time, our mind into a device, whether, entertainment, games. I mean, it could be sports. It could be just gaming, whatever you guys do on there. I mean, there's just so many games now. The gambling is on a rise, got to check my bets, all these things. Now, we're not against all these things. Don't hear us out. Like, we're not saying no to all these things you shouldn't, or you're in sin, or your marriage is going to fail. We're not saying that. That's a slippery slope we're not going down. We're saying is there's got to be, and I would say not even a balance. Like your wife, when we say, oh, you have to have a balance with technology, in my mind, I'm seeing a balance where they're equal. That's balance. My friend, your marriage deserves well more than a balance. Your marriage should be top priority. And maybe on your downtime, get it, downtime? This is on your downtime when all the things are done, when you're just, just sitting next to each other, you've given yourself, you're giving each other the time that we've requested. We got to talk about things, and we're just both at a place where it's like, we're just winding down, and you get on your phone. There's those moments, and it's okay. But my goodness, give your spouse, your wife, your husband the time they deserve. They are your one flesh partner for life.
Yeah. It comes back down to boundaries. I know you mentioned the other B word, balance, but it's boundaries.
Yes.
And what boundaries are you going to set in order when it comes to technology?
The bees.
The bees. Yeah, the bees are going to get you. The bees will sting you.
Oh, come on, preach it.
Yeah. But the boundaries, the boundaries are important when it comes to technology. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that in the practical tools. And let's talk about the last one. I think the last one is also critical in the marriage because distance happens when the husband and wife stop being friends. Like that friendship piece is gone.
Yeah.
And they're not laughing together. They're not enjoying each other. They're not engaging in that friendship spirit that they once had, that they once cherished when they were dating or earlier, in their early years of marriage. Yeah. And that friendship piece is gone. And when you lose that friendship piece and that connection and that relationship with one another, that's when that slow drift begins to happen. And you wake up one morning and you realize, man, we're distant because we've lost the friendship piece.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
We'll leave it with that. So let's give these couples some hope. Like how do we close this gap? Because there is hope. You can reduce that distance and become close again, close-hearted, knitted.
Yeah.
Close-knitted.
Close-knitted.
Closely knitted together.
Yeah. So you want to give them these practical tools?
Yeah, let's do
these practical tools. Number 1, schedule time to reconnect. Let me say that again. Schedule time to reconnect.
Yeah.
connection just doesn't happen anymore. You have to plan for it. You have to be intentional about moments in your marriage where you're going to say, hey, we're going to take this night of the week. We're going to take this time of the day. We're going to do this date night, and we are going to put it on the calendar, or we're going to plan it, and it's going to be our time for us to reconnect. Right?
Yeah.
And that goes back, that goes tied into the last one about loss of friendship. When you reconnect, that starts feeding into that friendship once again in your marriage, in your relationship. So you got to plan that time to reconnect and fight for that time.
Yeah, and this is especially important for those of you who are raising families right now, and you are zoom everywhere, going 100 miles an hour to every place, it is important to intentionally plan those times for you and your spouse.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys started this mess. You know what I mean? You're the ones that came together and had the kids and, blended your family wherever you're at, whatever your story is. So make the time for each other.
Yeah. Yeah. Your mess can be blessed once again, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure.
And that's where like date nights, man, are so important. Scheduling those rhythms of times where you can connect and get out, have fun, reconnect, have a date night.
Yeah.
That's a good way to close the gap in the distance.
Get curious about each other again. Remember those date nights when you just talked for hours and asked all the questions about your spouse? Just get curious again. Like, ask those deep, meaningful questions at dinner or when you're sitting on the couch, and just say, tell me what the best part of your day was. We just went to a friend's house a couple nights ago, and they asked a question at their dinner table, and it was a really odd one, but it was just like, what was confusing about your day? And it really made you think, and it was like, oh, okay. I mean, just coming up with some questions that really just engage you together.
Yeah.
And be honest and just open and heartfelt.
Yeah. Yeah. The second practical tool for couples to close the gap and lean into one another is this idea of turning towards each other. Like, turning towards each other means that you're moving, you're intentionally making steps to lean into your spouse, right? So it could be a big gesture or it could be a small gesture, but turn towards each other. Because what happens is when there is that distance in the marriage, the husband and wife tend to turn away from each other to other things, because other things are distracting them in their marriage, in their relationship. So they have to stop and intentionally make the turn towards one another. What would that look like, making a turn towards one another, you think?
I think, it kind of goes back in with intentionally scheduling time for each other, but being the one that approaches your spouse, laying down any pride, especially if you're in the middle of an argument or a situation where there's tension, be the one that makes that first step and asks for, night to go watch a movie, or not even a movie, maybe just dinner, because maybe you're not. Movies are easy, kind of, because you just go with them and then you sit next to each other the whole time and still don't talk. But
yeah,
maybe
movies are like
dinner.
Marriage babysitting.
That's funny. Yeah, let's go to a movie. No, you're right, because it's a date. But if you just go to the movie and you buy the popcorn and you sit next to each other the whole time and just are engaged in the movie, get in the car and you drive back home, what kind of connection was there?
Yeah.
You were together. That was great. But I'm talking about like some intentional togetherness when you have to look towards each other and give each other your eyes and your time. And I think that's when your hearts are able to connect.
Yeah. There's another factor in all of this that speaks to the idea of like the communication or the lack thereof. So another practical tool that a couple can engage in to close the distance is have the hard and tough conversations. Because there is a distance and there is a gap in the relationship, more than likely there's lack of communication going on.
Yeah.
And if the marriage is going to turn around and the marriage is going to close the gap, one of the spouses, they're going to have to say, "Hey, can we sit down and have the hard conversation? Meaning, what are we going to do now to close the distance in our marriage?" And having those tough, honest conversations can be very helpful. So if something is sitting there in your marriage and it's not being address it. That's the hard conversation.
It's a scary thing sometimes, because then you know that this conversation could potentially bring up hard feelings and create like an argument that you want to avoid. There's that tendency to avoid again. There's some guidelines, and that would be another podcast that I think we have about how to walk through conversations and the guidelines and just there's just a good way to have these hard conversations, or maybe I should say a better way than to come at it and put your boxing gloves on and fight through it. Because I think that's what brings that distance, Monty. I feel like when you're encouraging them to have the hard conversation, but I know there's people out there saying, I don't want to have the hard conversation because then we'll fight. And then I don't want to fight. So I'd rather be distant to avoid the fighting. So it's like this circular reasoning in your mind that is telling yourself, I'm doing this for the good of our marriage, really.
Sure. Yeah.
But really it's not. I mean, it's hurting your marriage because you're not close. So find someone. I mean, even if it's sitting down with another couple and just saying, hey, can you help us walk through this situation that we're just not seeing eye to eye? You know what? Find a good couple and they'll be more than willing. And most likely they've walked through that as well.
Yeah.
Because every couple on this planet has had conflict. And some choose to solve it and some choose to ignore it. And those are the couples where we see, that distance happening, and eventually, sometimes, unfortunately, they become distant forever and there's divorce. But so hard conversations are not called hard conversations for no reason. I mean, they're difficult, but worth it.
Yeah. And here are two tools when you're going to have those conversations that you can utilize. So remember this: truth plus grace equals healing. Truth plus grace equals healing. There's actually a name of a church here in Colorado Springs called Trace Church. And they've taken the two words, truth and grace, and created the word trace.
Shout out for Trace.
Yeah, Trace Church. Pastor Aaron, there you go, buddy. Truth plus grace equals healing. So when you're having the hard conversations, be truthful, be honest, massage it with some grace, right? Season it with some grace, and you'll begin to see some healing take place. So those are the couple tools you to get to utilize when you're going to have those hard conversations.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You say massage with grace. If you throw in a massage in there, that might be helpful too.
Heck yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but there's so much we could go in more depth in that. But then also with the tech thing, just, have those tech boundaries. It's really not hard. I mean, there's some people out there that are they might be addicted. There's some tech addictions going on out there, but I mean, you could break it. Just look to your spouse and see the value in their eyes. Know that they need you more than this thing.
Yeah.
This thing. Oops.
Talk about when you're together with the phone and the phone face down. Remember we were talking about this the other day?
Oh, yeah.
But we said this would be really, really good for married couples. The phone
Well,
face down.
When you're just like, for example, at dinner time, how you would feel if you were having a conversation with your spouse and the phone was in your hand. How would that make you feel? Not very important. like at the drop of a beep on your phone, ring, notification, you're done. You're no longer there. Then it was like, okay, how would you feel if the phone was on the table? A little better. It's still
better.
there. I mean, you still have the option. It's right there. And then turned it over. Okay, maybe a little more, but if it's on vibrate. And then it was like, what if the phone wasn't even near you, in the bedroom, in the car, or, if you were at a restaurant and you left it in the car? How much more valuable would you feel at that moment with your spouse? And so we would challenge you as couples to have those boundaries and really just set them as a guideline for your marriage so that it doesn't become an offensive conversation like, oh, I see you brought your phone. And then it's like, oh, that's a little stab.
Yeah.
Instead of, doing things like that, really just talk about as a couple, like, babe, do you feel like we're imbalanced with our technology? Yes or no? And then just have that hard conversation, but truthful conversation with each other, and talk to each other how it feels. And then make those boundaries. Hey, we're not going to have our phones out past 8:00. Hey, we're not going to have our phones even around during dinner, like they're in our bedrooms. Just simple, but practical, that you can do these boundaries, and just watch the growth in your relationship and how your spouse feels valued.
Yeah. Can I address one boundary when it comes to going to bed at night? So we know that the bed is utilized for two purposes for married couples: sleeping and sex. Now, what happens, and we hear this, and sometimes we've been guilty of it.
Oh yeah.
Where we're laying in bed, and instead of sleeping and not having sex, we're scrolling, right? So there's the third S. We're scrolling, and that act keeps the mind active, and sometimes that contributes to not being able to sleep. Like your mind is anxious because now you've just spent the last 15, 20 minutes scrolling in your bed, and now it's hard to fall asleep. And so I think that would be another healthy boundary that a couple can set in place when it comes to technology as well.
Yeah.
You agree?
Are you setting that for us right now?
Yeah, I would like to. I would like to.
Okay, sounds good. I'm with you on that.
All right. So it's about that time to pack up this episode. Hey, we've been spending the last 3 episodes talking about important questions. And these questions have been raised because of what married couples struggle with and go through, the anger and the selfishness and the distance in the marriage. And so our goal is to help establish these new parameters, these new boundaries, these new goals inside your life so you can have a healthy marriage, so you can have a strong marriage relationship. And Jeannine, we know that not every marriage is created the same. Each marriage is unique, and each marriage is different in its own special way. Not wrong, just different in its own special way. And so we would say that the next time that you're feeling my spouse is angry, my spouse is selfish, or my spouse is distant, take a peek at these episodes and remind yourself of the tools that you can actually enact to have a strong and a healthy marriage relationship. Yep. Before we sign off, is anything else, any concluding thoughts you want to share?
I would just say in all these areas that we've talked about over the last 3 episodes is take a mirror, spiritual mirror, a mirror that you can look into and examine your own heart, your own thoughts, your own life before you start pointing the finger to your spouse.
Yeah.
That's all.
That's it. That's good wisdom there. So there you go. We have given you one more tool for your marriage toolbox. Before we sign off, we want to say thank you for tuning in today. If you had not had an opportunity, please like, review, subscribe to the Favorite Marriage Podcast. And if you enjoyed this episode or any of our episodes, share it with a friend. Invite a friend, a neighbor, a coworker. to listen to those episodes. We've done 80 episodes, but there's tons of other information on our podcast. We do the 5-Minute Friday. I think we have over 160 episodes altogether there on our podcast. So you can visit us at thefavoritemarriage.com. You can find all the interactive information there as well. And so thanks for tuning in. And like always, we are praying that you would experience God's favor
On your forever.
And until next time,
Keep showing up.